Hi, how y'all doing? My name's Tyler. I'm the Vice President of the Winthrop College Republicans, and I'm also the second Vice Chair of the York County Republican Party. And today I'd like to welcome Mr. Joel Hamilton, who is the Chairman of the York County Republican Party. Based on my job description, I cannot say anything negative about him because, as I was reminded today, I serve at the pleasure of the chair. So this is going to be a very positive interview.
Thank you, Tyler.
So we're going to start things off with how did you first get involved in the party?
Well, I first got involved with the York County Republican Party as a student at Winthrop, actually about 13 years ago now. I hate to date myself that much, but right around that time, I believe it was my sophomore year at Winthrop. Went and knocked on a few doors, met a few people, went and spoke with Glenn McCall, went and spoke with Joe St. John, and they put me in touch with some campaigns, and I just started going. It was an awesome opportunity, and I was a political science major, so it was something that I was interested in, obviously. And the party, the local party just kind of welcomed me in with open arms and put me to work. So it was a great opportunity to be involved.
And what's nice is I felt like that same thing when I first got involved in the York County parties. I never felt like some disconnect because I was a younger person. They were all very welcoming since the start. Have you always been a conservative? Growing up, were you conservative? Or
I believe so. Even if it didn't really manifest itself in terms of policy as a child, obviously I wasn't very concerned with those sorts of things. As I became more aware, I always found myself siding on the side of what was the conservative side of the issue. I can tell you, I remember the first chapter book I ever read as a child was a biography on George H.W. Bush.
Oh, nice.
Which also kind of betrays some of my nerdiness. But it was a book that I bought from the book fair at school, and I came home with it. It's a little, pulp paperback book, probably all of 100 pages. But yeah, I remember the first real chapter book. I was probably second or third grade. I came home with that.
Awesome. So going back to the York County Republican Party, what is the goal of the York County Party?
Well, the goal of the York County Party, the York County Party is basically a subset of the South Carolina Republican Party, which is kind of a subset of the National Republican Party. The county party, we not only grow the Republican Party and get conservative messages out to voters, support candidates in general elections, we also run the precinct level for the state party. So we organize precincts to bring delegates to the county convention and in turn bring delegates to the state convention. That happens once every 2 years. In between, it's really more about kind of spreading the message. It's about supporting the candidates that win the Republican primary. And some of our members are able to support candidates in a primary election. However, the party itself does not choose or endorse a candidate in the primary.
That's basically what the college Republicans do, the same thing. So you guys got that idea from us. So since we both have roles within the York County Party, what is your job? And I'll go and I'll say mine. So what is your job in the party?
Well, I'm currently the chairman of the York County Republican Party, which kind of makes me the emailer in chief. But no, it's my job as the chairman. I'm responsible for growing the party, for keeping the party organized. Basically, all of the functions that happen have to go through the chairman. The chairman is expected to handle media, to speak on behalf of the party. The chairman is expected to serve on the executive committee for the state party. So there's lots of things that are sort of written into the bylaws that are roles for the chairman. Sort of informally, it's the chairman's job just to grow the party as much as possible and bring as many people into the fold, recruit candidates, recruit speakers at party meetings, bring in younger folks, to come into the party. Those sorts of things, support the college Republicans. Anything that we can do to serve the community and further conservative ideals within the county is sort of in the purview of the chairman's role.
Part of that supporting the college Republicans comes into play when it comes to buying us pizza and
Absolutely.
other resources. Very important. Very important.
Very important things.
And I guess my job, and I've been doing it for 2 weeks now. I haven't messed up so far, I don't think. Is basically, helping the chairman whenever the chairman needs help with anything. And I also run the website and some other things. And I think I'm doing okay so far. I haven't gotten an angry text or phone call from you yet, so I don't think I've messed up yet.
So far, so wonderful.
So far, so good. So You mentioned precinct reorg. What is that, and exactly how does that go about?
Well, the most local division, I should say, of the Republican Party is the precinct level. That's really the grassroots, the absolute most local level of the party is the precinct level. And so the precincts organize every off election year. So it's every 2 years, and it happens to be in odd numbered years. We organize each precinct in the county and elect a precinct president, a committeeman. You can elect a treasurer and a secretary at the precinct level. And those folks then comprise the executive committee for the party. Those folks attend the convention when we elect delegates at the precinct. Those delegates then attend the county convention. And those people become sort of the boots on the ground for that particular area going forward into a campaign season. So ideally, going into a campaign season, we would have an organized precinct with an active president or committee man that can sort of reach out to people within their own neighborhoods and be responsible for a certain geographic area to get meet and greets organized, to get candidates recruited, to get signs out, sort of any of the grassroots efforts. They're the point person for that particular area.
And then on election day, because I worked the polls during the 2016 general election, that comes down to also on the day of election calling people, saying, have you gone out and voted?
Absolutely.
Getting people places if they don't have transportation, just making sure that the Republican vote, after a year or so of campaigning, finally actually goes out on the actual election day.
Sure. And, we see a lot of ads, we see a lot of money spent, but at the end of the day, politics are people.
Yeah.
And what that means is the grassroots efforts are really the most important thing. The grassroots efforts is what tips elections one way or the other.
Yeah.
And the precinct level is where all that begins.
So this is an interesting odd year because typically on odd years, it's kind of like a break from campaigns. We don't have another election for like a year or so. But with Congressman Mulvaney resigning to become OMB director, we're having a special election this year. And so far, I think 6 candidates have confirmed for the Republican side of things. And what is the York County Republican Party's role in that special election?
Sure. Well, the party's role, our rule is that we don't endorse, we don't support one candidate really to the detriment of another in a primary. So the way that sort of works itself out is it's our role to inform voters.
Yeah.
It's our role to make sure that our Republican voters are well versed on each of the candidates, know their stances. That requires us to do things like host them as speakers, maybe organize a candidate forum like the college Republicans are doing right now.
Yep.
But really, it's our job to make sure that our voters, A, know about the election,
Yeah.
but B, are then informed as to who's in the election and who those candidates, what they stand for.
And that informed part plays a very crucial role because with this being a special election, and I think the primary is happening sometime in May. I got to look at the date. I made a video
2nd.
on it. I can't remember it. May 2nd, and then you got like the actual general. I think June 20th. I want to say.
I believe so.
So these are normal election dates.
It's not, and this is a full-blown sprint.
Yeah.
So for a lot of our grassroots people who do a lot of the heavy lifting, the knocking on doors, phone calls, putting signs in the ground, all the work, those people have been at work really for the past year because we had the presidential preference primary, then we had the general election, we had a very short reprieve over the last couple months, and all of a sudden we have a congressional race in our district. We have a congressional race where we'll have at least 6 Republican candidates. We'll get through that. If there's a runoff, we'll have a runoff, and then we'll have the general election. And all that's happening in a very shortened window. Generally, you're going to run a congressional race over the course of a year and a half.
Yeah.
Now these guys are being put in a situation where they have to run their race in a matter of a couple months. So that shortens all your timelines for everything. So you have to raise the money, get the campaign together, get your consultants hired, organize your volunteers, execute your strategy, get people to the polls, all in a matter of a couple months rather than 12 or 18 months or 24 months. So that poses lots of logistical challenges for these candidates. And, of course, they're going to just be incredibly busy over the next few weeks. So it'll be really interesting to see how it all shakes out.
And what's interesting for the York County Party, not only are there 6 Republican candidates, 2 out of the 6 are from York County. So it puts us in a position where we really do need to be neutral, not only in the way we normally would be, but because there are people who from this county are going to be kind of taking sides and trying to campaign, and yet we got to make sure we keep that neutrality.
Sure. We don't want the party to be contributing to fracturing our group. However, we are you mentioned it, we're very fortunate to have two great candidates from York County.
Yeah.
And we also have candidates from outside the party that are also very good and great candidates. So, again, people complain about there being too many people running. We're just incredibly blessed to have so many people willing to sacrifice and step forward and run in a race like this. It is, and when I say sacrifice, it's a huge sacrifice monetarily, time-wise, and then God forbid you win, then you're in D.C., away from your family, away from your home. So it is an incredible service, and to have so many people willing to step up and say, I will put myself forward and do that, is really inspiring to see. I mean, the opposite problem obviously would be so much worse if we struggle to find candidates for a seat like this. Yeah. So we're just incredibly blessed to have so many.
So you're a part of the College Republicans, and I'm currently part of the College Republicans. What is your message to younger voters?
Well, I think it's difficult for people on college campuses to be conservative. It's probably harder to be conservative than it is to be just about anything else on a college campus. And I think that's unfortunate, and I think at the end of the day it just requires some bravery to step out and maybe be different or unique from some of your peers. So the message would be to not be afraid of that. Not be afraid of bringing the views into the classroom, not be afraid of advocating for a position, because there's nothing wrong with it. And I think oftentimes conservatives in the media are ostracized. There seems to be a different set of rules, a double standard for conservatives. And I don't think that should hold anybody back from, voicing what they believe in. Yeah.
And going back on people being sometimes afraid to get involved, I know there are people that have conservative values but don't really know what avenues to take to get involved. And yet, with the York County Party, we both have had experiences where we felt very welcomed by the party. So they love seeing younger people.
Absolutely.
We want younger people to get involved. And that's part of the things I want to work on in the capacity of my roles, is getting more people involved. I spoke to the formal young Republicans, and I just want to get as many young people involved as possible and teach them that there are these different areas to get involved in.
And I think at the end of the day, it's fun.
Yeah.
Campaigning is fun. It's something that, you get to go out and you actually get to make a difference. After the election, it's very satisfying to be able to look and say, I had a part in that. And so for younger people who may have the time, it's a little bit harder to be involved when you have the family and the pressures at home. But when you're young, it's a unique opportunity to be involved in those races and spend the time volunteering. And I would encourage anybody to go out and do it, because at the end of the day, they're going to have a great time.
And one last question. This is one that we typically ask everyone that we interview, from Trey Gowdy to Mick Mulvaney. What is something about you that not many people know?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. Well, I used to play hockey. Not many people know that.
Were you good?
There were times when I was pretty good.
And one last thing, you mentioned that you were part of the College Republicans. You were the president of the College Republicans. So we sometimes give out certificates giving people honorary College Republican membership, but you pretty much are already a College Republican, even though you're
once a College Republican, always a College Republican.
So instead, we're going to give you this, which is College Republican President Emeritus.
Oh, wow, that is awesome.
This is the first time you've ever given this out to somebody, so this is
that is awesome. Man, thank you so much. What an honor. Yeah. That is awesome to see. I just hung up all the certificates, everything on my wall after 6 months of being in this office. So this is going to join.
Yeah, it's going to join me.
Yeah, I'm going to get that framed right away. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it.